And we are live. Welcome, mystery and thriller fans. I'm your on-air host, Sara DiVello, and I am so excited to welcome back to the show the incredible New York Times bestselling author, Karin Slaughter, here to give us the inside scoop on her brand new book, Girl Forgotten. Karin, welcome to Mystery and Thriller Mavens. Tell us about Girl Forgotten.
Well, it's a cold case book, which I love cold cases. And part of it takes place in 1982. And it features a girl named Emily Vaughn who is going to the prom. And we all think of that with great horror now as adults, that going to the prom. But because Emily is in the first chapter of a Karin Slaughter novel, you can guess things aren't going to turn out well for her. And then we catch up in present day with Andrea Oliver, who people might remember from Pieces of Her. And I say this book is in the world of Pieces of Her. You know, it's kind of a reset because Andrea is a US Marshall when we meet her, and she's graduating from Marshall School on that actual day. And her mom, who spent all that time in Pieces of Her telling Andrea, you need to grow up, you need to get a job, you need to move out, is now saying to Andrea, I didn't mean this job, I didn't mean move this place. And so Andrea is doing something we all have to do eventually, which is disappoint our parents.
Oh my God, Karin, I love you. Yes. So Andrea, formerly Andy, but now Andrea, a mature young woman, graduating from the Marshall School, disappointing her disapproving mother, Lara, and her ever loving, supportive stepfather, Gordon. It's so good to see the Oliver girls back in action, that mother-daughter duo that we love so much, and to see what Andrea gets into now as she goes to investigate this cold case. I love cold cases too. There's something so fascinating about them that may have very strong roots to Andrea's own complicated, troubled family history related to her terrifying dad, Nick Harp. So I can't wait to get into all of that. So if you've all been here before, you know how this works. Every Monday for hashtag Mystery Monday, because you know Mondays can be murder. I give you my handpicked featured authors and you get to ask them anything. So here's your chance to talk to this incredible best-selling author, Karin Slaughter. Ask her all about this book. Melissa Watson joining us live from Australia saying, good day, Sara and Karin. Lynn from Philadelphia, hi, welcome to the conversation. Melissa saying, this is my absolute favorite author. I've been reading her for almost 20 years. I'm reading Girl Forgotten now. Hi, Karin Slaughter. George Beach watching from Texas saying, I made it on time. Hi, Sara and Karin. Sarah White, welcome to the conversation. Hi from Florida. I'm reading your book too. Marcy, welcome to the conversation. Hi from Nantucket. Sheila says she just finished it. Sheila, let us know what you think. Anissa Joy, Bookstagrammar Extraordinaire, saying, hello, Sara and Karin. I can't wait to hear more about this book. Aaron's watching from Philadelphia. Wendy, welcome to the conversation, saying hi to us. Kathy from Texas, great to see you. Sharon saying, howdy, girls. Howdy, Sharon, welcome. So, Karin, tell us about the inception moment where you had the idea for this book, where you decided to write another book about this mother-daughter duo. Why and how you came up with this idea for this crazy cold case. Give us the scoop.
Well, first, I'd like to give a shout out to the person who had a cat with a lion cut in their profile pic. Excellent. I also have a very grumpy elderly cat. Yeah, there you go, with a lion cut. So, hello.
This is Wendy. Wendy's a huge fan. She comes all the time. Wendy, great to have you. And she is catch a clue.
So it's kind of hard to think of where ideas usually come from because it's such a weird thing. And I'm only really sure of one idea where I got that from, and that was with my novel, Pretty Girls. For this, I think every good novel has a question at the beginning that's answered by the end. And for Pieces of Her, it's who is Andrea when she realizes that her mother has lied to her entire life. And I think with Girl Forgotten, the question is, what kind of person is Andrea going to be? She's got two parents who are stone cold criminals. Only one of them regrets it. And so she becomes a marshal. And we all like to think when you put the badge on, that means you're a good person. But we know, unfortunately, it's a choice, right? And there are some bad people out there who shouldn't be cops. But Andrea slowly learns how to be a good person. And one of the reasons is she has a great mentor at the US Marshall Service, and that's a guy named Leonard Bible, who's been around a lot. And he kind of treats Andrea as a kind of a peer, but also someone that he wants to kind of coach up, which is what I've gathered is what they do when they have these new partner relationships in the Marshal Service. They don't haze them. They don't try to humiliate them or anything like that. They want them to be ready and out there and ready to go from the get-go.
Karin, that actually brings up a question that I have. Because I was really interested to see Bible, who is the seasoned marshal, training Andrea, letting her see how she does on her on her own. As she says in her first instance, when he goes to the bathroom, she sinks like a stone with an anvil around its neck. And when confronted with a difficult local police chief, she panics because he's making fun of her, he's intimidating her, and so she retreats to her phone, which is hashtag relatable. But Bible handles that differently. He comes out and asserts his authority, and I thought to myself, wow, this is so fascinating to see this interplay. What was your research process like into the marshals to learn about this?
Well, I'd never met any marshals before to talk to. And my friend Lisa Gardner, who's also a crime writer, an exceptional crime writer, she knew some people in the FBI who knew a marshal. And so I kind of got into the marshals that way. And it's a very small force. We don't know much about it in America. Yeah. We have the Fugitive movie with Harrison Ford, and we have Con Air, which isn't very realistic, with Nicolas Cage. So we kind of think we know what marshals do. Obviously, witness security, which we call witness protection for some reason. But they do more than that. And they're not really investigators. They're more like a bad guy escaped, let's go find him. Or, someone's not paying their taxes, we're going to go seize this oil tanker in the port of Savannah, right? And we're going to sell it, because that's what they do. But very occasionally they do investigations, and they're trained in that. Mostly, they're pedophile task forces that they keep track of at the federal level. But also they do judicial security. So I got to talk to some really cool people who work judicial security. They do a little investigation because there are a lot of nut jobs out there, and they got to find out who's just talking and who's might actually do something. Because especially now, there are a lot of nutty people making death threats just because, I don't know. So that was an interesting thing. And I thought, well, here's a good way to get Andrea into this town where Emily grew up, and also let her do a kind of side hustle to investigate what happened to Emily Vaughn.
I love that. And I'm one of those people who didn't know anything about the US Marshals. Actually, into everything I've learned about the Marshals, I've learned from you, Karin Slaughter, because I didn't know that they were the ones who did witness protection. I didn't even know it was called WITSEC, witness security. I had no idea, and I realized how very ignorant I was while I was reading your book and learning so much. So thank you for that backstory. I love that. Sheila, welcome to the conversation. Watching from Michigan. Kieran, hello, saying, Karin, you are my absolute favorite author. My husband laughs at me because I always say that Will Trent is my book boyfriend. Kieran, I love that. Wendy saying that is her cat, her baby Madeline. Madeline. Yay. Oh my God. So cute, Wendy. And Karin's a huge cat fan. Follow her on social media. She does fabulous Catterday posts. Really funny cats. Sharon saying she has 2 cats, Shadow and Peanut. Love those names. Thank you guys. Okay, we have a mystery user saying, hi, I'm obsessed with you, Sarah, and of course you, Karin. Hi and welcome. Sheila saying, Andrea and Leonard are a great team. I hope there are more books with them as characters. Karin, can you give us any hints about that?
Well, I never say never, but I can say the next book is going to have Will and Sarah. I've already started working on it, and I can't tell you much about it except some bad things happen.
Some bad things happen, slaughter style. Okay, well, we are ready, and I think Kiernan will be ready, judging since Will is her book boyfriend. Good news, Kiernan, your book boyfriend's making a reappearance. Donna's joining us from Cleveland, Ohio. Hey, Donna, great to have you. Welcome to the conversation. Another mystery user saying, "Hi, Sarah and Karen. So excited! I caught this, and I can't wait to read this. I just got it in, and I can't wait. Pretty Girls is one of my favorite books that I have ever read. Pretty Girls is such a classic." Thank you for joining us. Sheila saying that Andrea shows her training is ingrained. She knows how to react. Yes. So in the book, we see that there's the 10-week general training, then there's the special training, then there's the push and puke, which was upsetting. You have to run and try not to puke. Tell us about this ingraining of the training, Karin.
Well, I mean, they call it muscle memory, and it's just making your body capable of acting without having to think too much about it, right? And Andrea has this, she in the book, she hears someone shout for help, and she's already running out the door by the time she processes it. And they do that a lot, drawing their weapons, just making sure their hand knows how to do it very quickly and that kind of thing. But I did talk to the Marshalls a lot about what Marshall School is like, because it's fascinating to me as a woman. I mean, I know you're fairly athletic. It's not something natural to me. And I would never in a million years want to go to Marshall School, but it seems like something like, sometimes I'll read a recipe and I'll cut it out and think, oh, that, I'll bookmark it. That sounds good, but I'm never going to do it. And I feel the same way about Marshall School, because it's intense. They go through the usual training that all the other agencies go through, but then they stay on and they do really intense physical exercise and burpees and jumping jacks and all these crazy things. And they'll run 10 miles in the swamp. Brunswick, Georgia is a really horrible, horrible place in the summer. And then they'll fight hand-to-hand combat in a sand pit that's full of sand fleas, and they have an ambulance close by. And one of the women I spoke to, who's a marshal, I mean, they would put her up against a guy who's 6'3", 250 pounds, and she had to figure out how to take him down. And she did. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to graduate. So it was really fascinating to learn about all the training they go through and how they apply it practically. One thing women have who are small is they're very fast. A big guy takes a long time to move compared to a smaller person. And so, a lot of times just that being able to react quickly is all that it takes for a woman to be able to prevail.
Oh, that is so fascinating. Thank you for the backstory. When I hosted Isabella Maldonado, who wrote The Cipher and her series for the Nina Guerrera series, she was actually the first Latina to make captain in her police department in Arizona. In real life, Isabella was. And then she was handpicked to go to the FBI Academy at Quantico. Also was put up against the men. But back then, there were no rules of conduct. And so they told the men to try to make her cry. And so they punched her in the head until she was concussed. But she still did not cry. And then they felt that she was tough enough to continue. It's extraordinary to think of anyone, but especially, a woman in these circumstances for work.
Right.
So I am fascinated by this. Thank you. Thank you, Karin. Deborah, welcome to the conversation, saying, hey, from Houston, I have read all of your books and I've heard you read live at Murder by the Book. Keep writing. I guess you're going to get a bonus point for having a cat picture too.
Yes.
Okay. Sharon saying she loves Lisa Gardner. Yes. And how cool is it to know that Lisa hooked Karin up with this Marshall insider information? Very cool. Lonnie, welcome, watching from Georgia. She says her neighbor is a US Marshal. I've never met one in real life. Very cool, Lania. Thank you so much for joining us. Melissa says, so exciting to see Karin live from down under. She'd like to know what inspires you for each new book. Yeah, so Karin, you are an established writer, 20 New York Times instant bestsellers, pieces of her, a huge Netflix series with over 250 million hours watched around the world. How do you sustain your creative energy?
Well, I still love writing. and I still am excited about telling stories. I mean, that's the part that I think about when I'm in an airport and my plane's delayed and I'm exhausted from being on tour or something like that. I just sit and I think about storytelling. And I'm always, I mean, like you, there was a time in my life when buying a hardcover book was a lot of money for me. I mean, it's still a good piece of money, right?
Yeah.
For, but if I saved up and bought the book from my favorite author and they had phoned it in, or I felt like they hadn't really given it their all, I took that personally, because that was several hours of my life I had to work to get that book, and then several hours to read it. And so I always think about me back then and how I felt that betrayal on such a personal level. So I want to make sure every time I write that it's the best book I can write and that I'm doing something new and interesting with the story.
Oh, I love that, Karin. And I love how you said you can feel when they phone it in, because we can all feel that. It's funny, right? Like we're over here reading these pages at least a year and a half, sometimes 2 years after you have sat at your desk and wrote them. And yet we feel that energy come through. And I think one of the reasons that you have such an incredibly loyal league of fans is we know Karin Slaughter never phones it in. Like you feel that passion, that rawness, that realness you are delivering. And it's so fascinating to know that it's because of your own experience as a reader, and you know how much you have to save to pay for that hardcover. I certainly relate to that. Thank you so much for sharing that. Melissa's saying cats are the best. She has a fluffy rag doll named Jimmy. Very cool.
Really amazing.
I need to go look that up. I don't actually know what kind of cat that is. Karin shared, oh my goodness, we have the founder of Bitchy Bookworms in the audience. Christina, welcome. She said, Karin, you shared a photo of her 28-pound cat laying on her copy of Pretty Girls one time. Christina rescues her cats, and she is a member of several chubby cat support groups. Yes. So
they need our support. I had a Maine Coon that was 20 pounds.
20 pound. Oh, and Maine Coon's the ones with 6 fingers, right?
No, not all the time. They've got like an M on their heads, and they've got a raccoon tail, and they look like a raccoon mask. They're very similar to, a lot of people mistake them for rag dolls, but rag dolls are the ones that just kind of flop, like they don't have any bones. When you pick them up, they're very cuddly, but Maine Coons are a little crazy. I think that this Christina's cat may have been a Maine Coon. They tend to get pretty big.
So one of my best friends, Jessica, is from Maine and has a Maine Coon cat at her house in Maine. And I thought she had told me that they were the ones that have the extra thumb. They have the polydactyl. And I thought that was a differentiating factor of Maine Coon cats. So good to know. I'm learning so much.
Yeah, some of them do, though, especially Hemingway's cats.
I did not know this. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm getting the inside scoop on all things feline and Girl Forgotten tonight, y'all. Christina, this is Christina Cook. She's the founder of Bitchy Bookworms, the biggest book group on Facebook with 128,000 members, my favorite group. And she's incredible. And she is your biggest fan, Karin. She loves all of your books. Christina, so great to have you. And Christina, thank you for all you do for books and for readers and authors. You're amazing.
Send more cat photos, Christina.
Okay. Karin Slaughter has cast the gauntlet, Christina. Is the challenge accepted? Erin says she is looking forward to bad things happening Slaughter style. Yes, yes. I am loving this. And Nisa says MKA says the title is Grill Forgotten. Oops. Which title do you prefer, Karin?
Oh, that's Mary Kay Andrews. I should hold up her book. This is her latest book. So I don't know where she got that title, but I prefer Girl Forgotten. Thank you.
Great question. Anissa helps run the Friends in Fiction Facebook group with Mary Kay Andrews over there. Anissa, great to have you with us tonight. Thank you all for tuning in. Sharon would like to know, Karin, how can we get a signed copy of Girl Forgotten?
Well, Poison Pen, I signed some extras there. If you want to look on my website at my tour, I signed extras everywhere I went. Our Barnes and Noble, I think, has a few left. So hopefully you'll be able to find them in one of those places.
Ooh, or maybe I could send you a stash of, okay, everybody, how about this? Anyone who buys the book tonight from Murder by the Book, DM me your receipt. And how about this? I'll send a stash of book plates to sign for Karin with a self-addressed stamped envelope, and Karin will send it back. A special Mystery and Thriller Mavens book plate. Here's the link again. I've been posting it a couple of times, but here's the link. If you buy your book tonight from Murder by the Book, fabulous Houston-based woman-owned bookstore. Here's the link. Buy your book, DM me, Sara DiVello, your receipt, and I will get you a signed copy. How about that? I'll get you a signed book plate.
Well, and I'll actually personalize it too if you like.
Okay, y'all. Karin's going to personalize it. So DM me your receipt. Tell me who you want it signed to. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. DM me your receipt, and I will get you a personalized signed copy courtesy of Karin Slaughter. How freaking cool is this? I'm excited. Yay! Darla, hello from Portland. I love you too. Darla, we love you. Thank you so much for being here. So great to see your name pop up. We got Julie watching from California. She wants to know, Karin, do you read your reviews? I want to know too.
Well, not really, because a long time ago, I learned if you read reviews, you tend to only believe the really bad ones. And, and not believe the good ones. So I try to stay away from that. And it has kept me sane these many years. I do know the stars I have on Amazon and Barnes and Noble and places like that. And I love when I go into a store like Murder by the Book and I see the little staff recommendations under that to me is very meaningful.
That is a great question, Julie. And I was wondering too, I know you don't read them, but the Washington Post says that it's Slaughter's prodigious gifts of characterization that make her stand out among thriller writers. I loved that review because it honed in on what they find makes you, what they love about you. And I think we all have our own favorite thing about Slaughter. In the Slaughter Squad, we all have our favorite thing about Karin Slaughter books. But I love that that's what the Washington Post pointed out. I put that in the comments for anyone who wants to see it. So, Melissa's saying that the ragdoll cats, they flop and they're so sweet.
Well, she has a beautiful little greyhound on her picture. I'm just here for the animals, folks.
We're just here for the animals. My cat-sized dog is co-hosting with me tonight. I will try to pick her floppy body out to bring her in the camera. Kathy wants to know, as a writer, did you or do you still find yourself getting emotionally attached to your characters? Ooh.
Absolutely. And sometimes it's hard because I know what's going to happen to them if it's nothing good. And I really loved Emily in this book, Girl Forgotten, because, you kind of see her, you have her in that first chapter, but then you go back in time and you see how she got there. So there's more of her through the book. And you just get the idea that she would have just been an amazing person, right? And she would have been just a really great friend, and that she would have had a lot to contribute to the world. And that's one thing, that ties in with the title Girl Forgotten, because we see young women all the time in the news who have something really horrible happen to them. And the terrible thing about living the life we're all living is that a week later they're forgotten and a new girl is in the news. And I wanted to really show Emily as an actual person. And, she had dreams, and she, had this idea of who she would be that was changed because she got canceled in school and, had to reassess and decide what her priorities were. And, we forget a lot of times when these girls are lost and forgotten, not just the lives that are lost and how it impacts the family, but what they would have been had they gone on to live, what they would have contributed. They would have been friends and mothers and lovers and, wives, sisters, all of these relationships that don't happen because this girl is forgotten.
Yes. Karin, thank you for that, because I found myself, as you said, that if you see someone in the first chapter of a Karin Slaughter book, it's not going to go well for them. But I got so attached to Emily in that first chapter. I think because she's so close to her grandmother, and I was so close to my grandmother. And you also see her struggling, and you see her relationship with each of her parents and with her grandmother. And as you said, she's such a bright, bright spirit with so much potential ahead of her. And so I actually teared up when the bad thing happens to her, because I came to care about her, and that only increased as the book went on, and you get to see what a sensitive, caring, empathetic person she is. And when she sees someone being bullied, or when she sees someone, another young man, who ends up being the police chief of the town, actually, in the current day with Andrea, you see him and her heart goes out to him, and you think, if this person would have done something really amazing with her life and she never got the chance. And I think, yeah, the way that you captured all of that is just, it's so lovely and it's so powerful, Karin. Leisha would like to know, do your book characters talk to you? And if they do, have you ever had to change something in the story because of it? Cool question.
Well, I know that some authors say that characters talk to them.
Yeah.
But I'm like super aware it's all in my head. So, it is, I do think about them a lot, and I think about how they're developing and what their motivation is and what their question is. Even I know there are probably some people watching this who are writers themselves. And I think every character you write about, even if they're on the page for a paragraph or whatever, they should have some agency. They should leave a mark. In particular, when you're writing crime novels, you want everyone to be a suspect, right? And the way you do that is you flesh out everyone, and you spend time on everyone and make them as realistic and memorable as possible. And so that, to me, I guess, is what the talking is making someone stand out, giving them a detail that makes them interesting. We all run into lots of boring people in our lives, but there's usually one thing about them that would be very interesting. And I always try to find the interesting thing when I write about these characters.
Ooh, so let's delve a little more. Let's go into that a little more. So when you are, and first of all, I like that you are aware that this is all happening in your head, because I've always had this, when people say that they hear their characters talk, I think, my God, I must not be very creative. I've never heard anyone talk. So this is reassuring to me. But when you say that you hone in on something that is interesting, so you're thinking about Emily, let's say, or Andrea or Laura Oliver, and are you closing your eyes and you're picturing them, and then you're sort of scanning for what's interesting? Or how do you do the interesting thing?
I don't know. I mean, so usually it's when I'm in the shower, or when I'm driving, or when I'm on the treadmill, or I'll be watching something on television, and it'll trigger a memory of somebody, or something that annoyed me, or something that I liked about someone. Or, if you really want to know about character and storytelling, listen to any Dolly Parton song. I mean, it's just a beautiful encapsulation of people and characters and place and setting. And that, so it's just drawing from all these different sorts of places that influence my life.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And it's so interesting, because I used to live next door to a woman who taught creativity at Harvard Business School. And she said that most creative ideas happen to people when they're in the shower, driving, or cooking, or when their one part of their brain is distracted and their creative brain can come out. So here we are seeing that in action. Thanks for the great question, Leisha. George, welcome to the conversation, saying, my sister rescues cats. She built an addition to her house just for her cats to be outside and safe from the coyotes. She also works for a big cat rescue near San Diego. She bought her car, and she has stickers on the windows that say, arm the animals, with a cat in commando gear. George, we love your sister.
We do. Way to go.
Sheila says, I like the cult stuff in your recent books. Karin, how did you decide to include the psychological side in your books? Great question.
Well, cults have always fascinated me. And I don't know if there was I'm Gen X. And so we were raised on VC Andrews. So any story about incest, we're like, what now? And there must have been the equivalent of a cult movie of the week or something like that in the 80s that we really got into, because I'm just fascinated by them. And, a corollary of that is people who, when they're interrogated, give false confessions, right? Because people always say, I would never give a false confession. I would never join a cult. I would never, And then you say, well, I mean, what sports team do you support? And it's like, I think you're in a cult, right? Or what group band are you into? Or, we do have these things we get obsessed with and we know way too much about. Probably everybody watching this knows way too much about crime and crime novels and crime authors and that sort of thing. And we always think of that as something good. But of course, cults can also have a very negative implication for you and your family, particularly the ones that want to isolate you and keep you away from people who would support you and love you. And I love writing about it. I've written about them before in different iterations, but I thought this was a really good place to do it because of the tie-in to Pieces of Her. Laura gets mixed up in a group that's very cult-like. So it was also a question. So you have Nick Harp, who was this bad guy in Pieces of Her. That's not a big spoiler. But are they made, or is it something that they evolve into? Or, that's part of Andrea's quest, because her father has a connection to Emily Vaughn. And her question is it nature or nurture? And if it's nature, is that nature inside of me?
Yes. So that's one of the many things that I loved about this book is we got to see, Laura in Pieces of Her, but now we get to see Andrea's other genetic half, because I was wondering, who is this guy, Nick Harp, and how does someone get to be a person like this? How do they become this? And that question is answered when we get to see young Nick, high school Nick, in this book. So very, very cool. And nature versus nurture is a fascinating question to me. So I loved seeing Andrea explore that. Rosa, welcome to the conversation. I see in your profile that you work in the legal industry. Very cool. She wants to know, Karin, will Girl Forgotten become season 2 of Pieces of Her? Give us a scoop.
There's nothing yet, but I mean, we'll see. I hope. Buy lots of books. We'll see if they make a decision.
I mean, we got to make that happen because I need to see these two. I loved seeing Toni Collette be Laura. I loved Gordon. I mean, I thought it was so perfectly cast. So I definitely want to see this on screen. If you do too, y'all buy the book. And don't forget, Karin is going to personalize it. So here again is the link. Buy it for Murder by the Book. DM me your receipt and you will get a personalized book plate from Karin, an incredible offer. Thank you so much, Karin. Leach would like to know, do you choose your book title before, during, or after you finish writing the book? Yeah, Girl Forgotten, such a fabulous, memorable title.
Well, it just depends on the story in the book. I knew pretty early on that I wanted it to be Girl Forgotten. There was a lot of back and forth at my publishing house about the comma, which I didn't weigh in on. But yeah, I mean, Emily was someone who was forgotten for 40 years. So that was something that I thought really informed how the story would work. Sort of an alert that, you would see more of her throughout the book. But sometimes, it doesn't happen that way. It used to be I would not be able to write till I had the title. But now I could be halfway through, or I could be at the end and thinking about the work as a whole and, thinking what's a good summation of what this book is about.
Ooh, very cool to know. I like that. I like knowing that there was discussion over that Girl, Forgotten. I'm pro comma. So I'm excited for it. Leach is saying, thank you so much for answering my questions, Karin. Christina Cook would like to know, Karin, when you're writing characters, do you picture celebrities or people as the different people? Tell us.
No, I don't. I can't even describe to you exactly what they look like in my head. But everybody's idea is different. A lot of times I would go online on Facebook or whatever and say, who would you cast as Will Trent? And you get everyone from Joel Kinnaman to Eric Estrada. There was a lady in Brazil who said Eric Estrada. And I'm like, okay, well, whatever your will is in your head, that's fantastic. But, actually the character playing Will Trent in the ABC series that will come out next year, Raymond Rodriguez, He's a really sexy guy. He's really intense, and he's captured all the things about Will that matter, including his silences. And he's got great chemistry with Betty the Chihuahua. So, it's just, I tell people the show is the show and the book is the book. So Will can always be your book boyfriend. But I hope they love Raymond in the show as well.
Oh, I think we'll love Raymond. Kieran, let us know who your boyfriend Will looks like in your head. Sheila saying this book had some humorous writing. She especially enjoyed the descriptions in the scene in McDonald's. Yes. Karin, what do you think the secret is to writing humor on the page? Because it's hard to make people laugh.
It is, but I think it's necessary when you're writing something so intense. I want to make sure that it's not just this really dismal and horrible place these characters are living in all the time. Especially with Andrea, she's a very internal person. She doesn't talk a lot. And I think, just hearing her perspective, it's very wry and humorous in a lot of ways. And I think part of that comes from the fact that she kind of thinks of herself as a failure because she dropped out of art school and she moved to New York and it didn't work out. And, in this book, Girl Forgotten, she's kind of realizing that she can be successful at something finally and trying to embrace that. But there's a lot of humor along the way.
There is a lot of humor along the way. Sheila, thanks for bringing that up. And Karin, thanks for giving us a peek into your humorous process, letting us know why and how you do that. George saying, I know a lot about the Muffin Man. I'm missing that reference, George. Maybe I missed that at all. Sarah saying, wow, this is so cool to getting this peek inside. Margaret, welcome to the conversation, saying chilling. She wonders if any criminals read crime fiction and pass their comments on to the authors. That's a challenge.
Oh, yeah, whether we want them to or not. There's a lot of creepy people that are out there in the public. And I know a lot of authors have had, particularly men, say some really weird things to you if you're a woman. But it's not something that we encourage.
Yeah. Or even start giving you shoulder massages, Karin.
Right. Yes, absolutely. Yes. Would not encourage those either.
No. George is saying, please don't let it be Tom Cruise, who inhabits these male characters of yours. George, I think we're safe from that, Karin. We're safe from Tom, right?
Yeah, but the thing is, there aren't that many tall actors, male actors. So it's really difficult to find, unless, the Australians come in. But I think what's important is they understand the character and they do a really good job capturing the feel from the novels.
Do you feel that they did in Pieces of Her?
I do, absolutely. I mean, Toni Collette did an amazing job. I mean, she really captured Laura's low simmering anger, and it was just spot on.
Yes, exactly. I love that. Margaret saying chemistry with a chihuahua, not something you expect to see on your resume. Yes, exactly. I was also still thinking about that, Margaret. Kieran saying Austin Butler is her Will Trent. Very interesting. Okay. Rosa says her favorite were the text messages Mike sends to Andrea. Yeah, that is. Mike and Andrea have a very cool relationship. Christina saying she loves that you make your books funny, and Pretty Girls, the mean grandmother that had dementia and was really sweet, all of a sudden made me laugh a lot. Liza, welcome to the conversation, saying she would think that sometimes criminals get great ideas from books. Yikes. Cecilia, welcome. She said your dry humor is a favorite part of your books for her. Listening to you in interviews, I can tell you come by it honestly. Exactly. Yes. Also, Karin has really funny t-shirts. Check out her t-shirts. Margaret voting for the tall Australian Lecha, saying yes, there sure are a lot of creepy people out there now more than ever. Rosa saying Paul Bethany would be a perfect Will. Interesting how we all picture him so different. Y'all, we are almost out of time. I want to remind you to grab your copy of the book from Murder by the Book tonight. Here's the link one more time, and Karin will personalize it. So DM me, Sara DiVello, your receipt, and I will get you a personalized copy. This is such an incredible offer. We're so excited. So here again is the link. Click it, click it, click it. DM me your receipt, and we will get this done. Karin, do you have a favorite scene in the book to read or to write?
I really like Andrea's interactions with Mike because she's reading him so wrong. And, when we're in our 20s as women, we're kind of just like all over the place and what am I going to do? And then our 30s, we're like, oh, Jesus, I wasted my 20s. What's going on? And Andrea is trying to make up for that really quickly. I mean, she'll get to 40 and say, screw it, I don't care. But, for right now, she's trying to make up for lost time. And part of her idea of being adult is to push everybody away from her old life. And she realizes that maybe that's not the best thing to do. And slowly through the book, her relationship with Mike starts to evolve. And I really like that because he's a nice guy. And one thing, when you talk to women in law enforcement is it's really hard for them to remind themselves that there are men out there who aren't completely horrible jerks. Yeah. Because most of the cases they deal with are men just being awful. And because, good guys don't normally get arrested. So, for Andrea, I think that Mike's a really important person to have in her life. And I liked their relationship.
I liked their relationship too. It was nice to see her get to trust him, come to trust him, to see him earn that, and to see a young woman who has struggled with trust, understandably so, receive the healing heart balm of trusting someone rightly, and having that healing experience. Oh, okay. So we have a question. Thank you. Sharon saying, how do we DM? Okay, Sharon, if you're not sure how to DM, no worries. Email me your receipt. So here is my email. It's Sara, my first name, at saradivello.com. If that is easier for you, you can email me your receipt. So it's just Sara at saradivello.com. I'll pop that up for you so that you can email me your receipt. If you don't know how to DM, no worries at all. I'll still get you one. Okay. Natasha saying she loves your books, Karin. She's already counting down into the next release. Leisha saying thank you so much for joining us today. She has enjoyed it. Melissa thanking us from down under. Say thank you so much. George saying that your raw sense of humor is so refreshing. And I find myself saying, no, she didn't. Oh, yes, she did. Oh, yes, she did. And she did it so well. Y'all, we are out of time. Thank you so much for spending your Mystery Monday with us. Oh, Sheila's saying there was some Darcy and Elizabeth Bennet dynamic between Mike and Andrea. Very cool. Sharon, thank you. George, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Here again is the link to purchase. Y'all, I do not make a coin off of this. I volunteer my time. I believe in supporting independent bookstores. So order that book. DM me your receipt and I will get you a signed copy. Deborah saying thank you. Y'all have a great night. Erin saying this has been so good. She loves your interviews, Karin. Wendy saying absolutely fantastic evening. Good luck with the book sales. Y'all have a good night and I will see you next Monday. No, next Monday's Labor Day. Next Monday we're off. I will see you in 2 weeks for #Mystery Monday because Mondays can be murder. Have a great night. Oh, I will see you at the top of the hour though with Robert Bailey, but then in 2 weeks.